The market was loud, full of shouting voices and blinking lights. Aliens of all kinds traded food, tech, animals, even people. In one quiet corner, an old vendor sat behind a cage. Inside the cage, a young alien woman knelt on the cold floor. Her arms were thin, her silver skin marked with scars. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She didn't even blink much. A large red tag hung from the bars. Returned 47 times. Defective. The vendor leaned back and sighed. "No one wants her," he said to another merchant. "Looks nice, yes, but she doesn't respond, doesn't obey. They all return her after a week or two." The other merchant laughed. "Maybe she's cursed." The vendor shrugged. "I'll give her away for the price of a used power cell." Inside the cage, the girl heard every word. But she didn't react, because she had learned, long ago, that no one meant what they said when they said, "I'll take care of you." On the other side of the market, a human named Cole walked slowly between stalls. He wasn't here to buy people. He hated this part of alien culture. But he needed spare parts for his ship. He had flown across 3 systems just to find something cheap. He passed weapons, food carts, scrap booths. Then, he paused. He saw her. Not because of her beauty, though even in silence her face was soft, strange, and elegant, but because of her eyes. They looked empty, not angry, not scared, just tired. Cole read the sign. Returned 47 times. His heart ached. He had seen machines thrown away after one failure. But a person? 47 times? He stepped closer. "She have a name?" he asked. The vendor snorted. "She had one once. Won't tell us. She doesn't speak. She just sits. Eats almost nothing. Doesn't react to pain or kindness." "Is she violent?" "No. Just broken. Like a doll with no voice." Cole looked at her again. She was looking at the ground, but her ears twitched when he spoke. She was listening. "She been abused?" he asked. The vendor paused. "Not by me," he said quickly. "Look, you want her or not? You seem like the type that wants to fix things." Cole didn't answer. He just opened his credit chip and paid. Back at his quiet home, far from the city center, Cole opened the door to his small workshop. Tools hung on the walls. A couch sat in the corner. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and warm. The alien girl stood at the doorway waiting for instructions. "You can come in," Cole said softly. "No cage here." She stepped in slowly, like someone expecting to be hit. Cole pointed to a small table. "You hungry?" She didn't reply. He placed a warm bowl of broth on the table and walked away. She sat. She sniffed it. Then slowly began to eat. Small bites. Careful sips. Cole watched from across the room but said nothing. He didn't want to scare her. Days passed. She didn't speak. But she watched. She watched how Cole treated her. Not like an object, not like something broken, but like someone who mattered. He let her sit wherever she wanted. He left food for her. He gave her clean clothes and never asked her to do anything. He just let her be. One night she fell asleep on the floor beside the heater. Cole came in and saw her shaking. Without a word, he laid a blanket over her and walked away. Her eyes opened the moment he turned his back. She didn't know what to do with this feeling inside her chest. Then came the night of the thunderstorm. Rain hit the roof hard. Lightning lit the windows. A loud crack of thunder shook the building. Cole sat up on his bed but paused when he heard something. A scream. He ran to the living room. She was on the floor, curled up, her hands over her ears, her mouth open in silent terror. "Hey, it's okay," he said, kneeling beside her. "You're safe. It's just a storm." She gasped and pushed herself into the corner, trembling like a leaf. Cole didn't touch her. He just sat nearby and whispered, "You're not there anymore. No one's going to hurt you here." She didn't reply, but her breathing slowly calmed. Later that night, as he handed her a fresh blanket, she looked up at him with wide, glassy eyes, and for the first time, she whispered. Don't send me back. Cole's chest tightened. He knelt and looked her in the eye. I won't. She looked unsure. He repeated louder, clearer. You're not going back. Not ever. She pulled the blanket close and nodded once. She still didn't trust the world. But something about this human felt different. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope. The next morning, the storm was gone. The sky was clear, but the memory of the night still hung heavy in the air. Cole moved quietly through the kitchen, placing a fresh bowl of soup on the small table. He didn't expect a thank you. He didn't need one. He just hoped she would eat. She entered the room slowly, barefoot, her eyes tired but alert. Her silver skin was wrapped in a clean shirt he had given her. She glanced at him, then looked away. He said nothing. She sat down and began to eat, carefully, like someone afraid the food might be taken away. Cole watched her only from the side. He didn't speak. He didn't move closer. He had learned already. Her silence was not a problem, it was her safety. Hours passed like that. She explored his small home in quiet steps. She touched the soft blanket on the couch. She looked at the tools on the wall. She watched the birds outside the window like they were strange creatures she had never seen before. Cole worked nearby, fixing a damaged control board. He didn't try to force a conversation. He simply let her be. But even in her silence, she was watching everything, and slowly, her body stopped shaking. On the third day, she followed him outside into the garden. He was checking the solar panels when he noticed her standing a few feet behind him. You like the sun? He asked gently. She nodded once, then sat on the grass. Cole smiled but didn't speak further. Instead, he handed her a small apple-like fruit. She took it, examined it, then took a bite. Juice ran down her fingers, and for a second, just a second, she smiled. It vanished quickly, but Cole had seen it. That night, as he cleaned up dinner, she stood in the doorway. She looked nervous. Do you want me to do something? She asked quietly. It was the first full sentence she had spoken. Cole turned around slowly. No, he said. You don't owe me anything. Her brow furrowed. But I stay here. I eat your food. You stay here because I invited you. That's enough. She stared at him. Her hands were clenched at her sides. Everyone else wanted something, she whispered. I'm not everyone else, Cole said simply. She nodded, then stepped back into the shadows, but something inside her warmed. The next morning, she made the bed. It was small, awkward, and uneven, but she had tried. She also placed the spoon and bowl neatly on the table after breakfast. Cole noticed, but said nothing. He knew, for someone like her, this was a big step. In the afternoon, he found her in the workshop, sitting on the floor beside a broken droid. He walked over. You like machines? She nodded. My name's Cole, by the way, he said. She looked up. Her lips moved slowly. Serene, she whispered. Cole smiled. That's a good name. She looked away quickly. It's not my real one. It's just the name I gave myself. After. After what? She didn't answer. Cole didn't ask. Again. Over the next few days, they settled into a quiet rhythm. She cooked rice one night. Burnt, but still edible. Cole ate it with a smile. She asked him questions in soft tones. What does this part do? Where does the wind go at night? Why are human eyes so dull? He laughed at that last one. She didn't laugh, but her eyes sparkled for a second. Sometimes she still froze at loud sounds. Sometimes she stared off into space for minutes at a time, trapped in a memory. But every day she came back a little more. Every day the silence between them became softer. Not empty, but full. Then one evening, Cole found her sitting by the heater, her knees pulled to her chest. He walked over and sat beside her on the floor. She spoke first. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. Cole looked at her. What do you mean? I've been given to so many people, sold, trained to smile, trained to serve. When I didn't do it right, they sent me back. Her voice cracked. I don't know how to be anything else. You don't have to be anything, Cole said. Seren looked at him confused. He continued, You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be useful. You're a person. That's enough. Her lips trembled. No one's ever said that to me. Then, they were wrong, he replied gently. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and for the first time, she rested without fear. Rain fell softly that morning, tapping on the roof like quiet fingers. Inside the house, Seren sat near the window, her eyes following the raindrops. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But something about the rain seemed to reach inside her. Cole watched from across the room as he worked on a circuit board. He had learned not to ask questions too soon. Some wounds didn't bleed on the outside, but they were deeper than any cut. He glanced at her hands. They were still resting in her lap, but her fingers kept twitching, like they were remembering something painful. Later that day, Seren wandered into the small bathroom and stood in front of the mirror. She pulled up her sleeve. The scars were still there, long, thin marks across her upper arm. She touched them slowly. Cold. Faint. But they never faded. Then she lifted her shirt slightly and stared at the patterns across her back. Ugly symbols burned into her skin, branding marks from her training center, numbers, alien letters, ownership codes, proof she had never belonged to herself. She turned away from the mirror, feeling sick. That night, she had another nightmare. Cole heard her crying before he reached her room. He found her sitting up, holding her own arms tightly, rocking back and forth. He didn't speak. He just sat beside her on the floor, close enough to let her know he was there, but not touching. After a long silence, she spoke. I remember a place with red walls, bright lights, a room where they made us kneel for hours. If you cried, they hit you. If you asked to stop. They smiled. Her voice was flat, broken. Cole's fists clenched. I was 13, she said. They told me I was lucky to be chosen. He looked at her, his voice gentle. You were a child. I was product, she whispered. No, he said. You were stolen, hurt. But you're still here. That makes you stronger than anyone I've ever met. She looked at him for a long time, then she asked, Do you want to see? He blinked. See what? What they did to me. He hesitated, afraid of hurting her more. Only if you want me to. She nodded once. Then slowly, she turned her back and pulled her shirt up. Cole's heart dropped. Her back was covered in thin white scars. Some curved, some crossed, and in the center, just below her neck, a square-shaped burn with alien writing inside. He reached out, but didn't touch. He just looked. Seren lowered her shirt and sat beside him again. I never showed anyone, she said softly. They all saw me as pretty or worthless. Never broken. You're not broken, he said. I am, she replied. But I'm still alive, so maybe that counts. It does, he said. More than you know. The next day, Seren surprised him. She entered the workshop while he was fixing an old drone. Without speaking, she sat across from him, picked up a tool and started helping. Her hands were shaky, but steady enough. Where'd you learn this? He asked. One of the homes I was sent to made me fix broken bots, she said. I got good at it. They still sent me back. Why? I didn't smile enough. I didn't talk right. I flinched when they touched me. Cole didn't speak. He just nodded slowly. You don't flinch when I touch the tools, he said. She gave him a small, tired smile. That's different. Tools don't lie. He looked at her. Neither do I. She paused, then whispered, I'm starting to believe that. That evening, Seren stood in front of the heater again, holding a cup of warm broth. She looked at Cole and said, Do you know what hurts the most? He looked up. What? It's not the pain, not the cages, not even the way they looked at me. She turned, her eyes glowing softly. It's that I started to believe them. Believe what? That I was nothing, that no one could ever want me. Cole stood up and walked over to her. You're not nothing, he said. She looked down. But I don't know how to be anything. He gently lifted her chin. Then let me remind you, one day at a time. She stared into his eyes, and for the first time she didn't look away. And in that moment a crack appeared in the wall she had built around her heart. Not the kind that breaks things, but the kind that lets the light in. Seren stood in the middle of Cole's small living room, holding a rusted data chip in her trembling hand. She had found it buried deep in her old satchel, the only thing she had taken with her when she escaped the last owner. She didn't know why she kept it, maybe because it held the truth about her past. She placed it on the table and looked at Cole. I want you to see this, she said, but not because I want pity. I want you to understand what I was made to be. Cole nodded and slid the chip into his console. The screen lit up. A loading screen appeared. Project, Elise Unit, Behavioral Compliance Training. Then, video logs began to play. The footage showed a clean, white facility. Dozens of girls, young, alien, scared, stood in lines. Their clothes were plain, their backs were straight, their eyes were empty. A voice spoke over a speaker, Unit 12, smile. The girl didn't smile fast enough, she was shocked. Seren flinched as she watched but didn't look away. That's where I was raised, she said quietly. They didn't call us girls, they called us units. Cole stared at the screen, his hands clenched. They gave us numbers, stripped our names, taught us how to cook, clean, sit still, speak in soft voices. If you didn't obey, they punished you. If you cried, they said you were defective. He paused the video. Why are you showing me this now? Because you need to know, Seren said, that I wasn't just rejected, I was built to break, built to be quiet, built to make others comfortable. When I failed, they returned me. She looked down. I've been owned by 27 people. Returned 47 times, not because I ran, but because I never smiled the way they wanted. Or because I asked questions, or flinched when they touched me. Cole sat down across from her, eyes full of quiet pain. She whispered, I used to believe I was the problem, that I was born wrong. You weren't, he said firmly. She looked at him unsure. I don't care what they tried to make you, Cole said. You're not a unit. You're not a number. You're Seren, a person, a soul. Her lip trembled. But I don't know who that is. I was never allowed to be her. He leaned forward. Then let's find her. Together. The next day, Seren walked outside alone. She didn't go far. Just to the edge of the field behind the house. The wind touched her face, gentle and clean. She knelt by a flower growing in the dirt and stared at it for a long time. No one had ever allowed her to stop and look at something so small. She thought, maybe this is what it means to be alive, not owned, not sold, not watched. Just here. When she returned, Cole had set out a small meal. She ate beside him. No words were spoken, but she didn't flinch when he sat close. That evening, she stepped into the workshop and reached for the broken communication bot on the shelf. Teach me, she said. I want to fix it. Cole raised an eyebrow. Why this one? Because I want to learn something I choose, not something forced on me. He smiled. All right, we'll fix it together. She bent over the machine, fingers steady, mind sharp. For hours they worked. And when the bot finally blinked its little light and said, Hello? Seren laughed. A real, full sound. Cole looked at her in surprise. It was the first time he had heard her truly laugh. It wasn't perfect. It was better. Later that night, Seren sat on the couch wrapped in her blanket. She looked up at Cole and asked, Why haven't you sent me away? He paused. Do you want to leave? No, she said quickly. I keep waiting for the moment you change your mind. I won't, You will. Everyone does. He looked at her, serious now. Then I guess I'll have to be the first who doesn't, she blinked. Why? Because I don't see a broken girl when I look at you, he said. I see someone who survived something horrible and still chose kindness. She stared at him, eyes wet. I don't know how to be loved. You don't have to know, he whispered. Just stay. And in that quiet moment, Seren finally allowed herself to believe that maybe she didn't have to be perfect. Maybe she just had to be. It started with a sound, the low hum of a luxury skimmer cutting through the air, sleek, polished, and expensive. Cole looked up from his workbench as the vehicle hovered to a stop outside his home. No markings, no colony tag, just smooth black, metal and quiet threat. Seren was in the kitchen stirring soup, but when she heard the engine, the spoon dropped from her hand. Her breath caught, her legs trembled. No, she whispered. No, not him. Cole rushed over. Seren, what is it? She backed into the corner, eyes wide, frozen. He's here, the one who called me thing, the one who sent me back with bruises when I refused to kneel. Cole didn't hesitate. He grabbed his tool gun, stepped outside, and closed the door behind him. A tall alien noble stepped out of the skimmer. He wore elegant robes, rings on every finger, and a cruel smirk that said he was used to getting what he wanted. Human, he said calmly. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Cole stood firm. No, you're wrong. The noble tilted his head. Silver skin, slender build, model 17C. Silent type, correct? Cole's jaw clenched. Her name is Seren, and she doesn't belong to anyone. The noble laughed coldly. She was purchased legally, returned due to emotional failure, but I paid, which means I can take her back. Cole raised the tool gun slightly. Not from me. The noble's tone changed. You think I won't report you? You're harboring defective property. She's not property, Cole growled. She's a person. You don't own her anymore. The noble smirked. You don't get to decide that, human. Cole narrowed his eyes. No, she does. Inside the house, Seren heard every word. Her heart pounded, her mind screamed, hide, run, disappear, but her feet didn't move. Not this time. Instead, she reached for her scarf, wiped her tears, and stood tall. She opened the door and stepped outside. The noble turned, clearly amused. There you are, come now, you know how this works, I'll forgive the delay. Seren stared at him, then took one step forward. Cole reached out, but she gently placed her hand on his arm. It's okay, she whispered. I'm not afraid. She looked the noble dead in the eyes. I'm not going back. The noble's smile faded. Excuse me? You heard me, she said louder. I'm not yours, not a unit, not a product, not a servant, not anymore. The noble's face darkened. You're malfunctioning. No, she said. I'm remembering. He reached toward her. You forget who I am. But before he could touch her, Cole stepped between them. His voice was calm. Deadly calm. Touch her again and I'll remind you what humans are like when you mess with someone they love. The noble glared at them both. Then slowly he lowered his hand. This isn't over, he hissed. He climbed back into his skimmer and disappeared into the sky. Back inside, Seren collapsed into Cole's arms. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She was just breathing. You stood up to him, Cole whispered. I almost didn't, she said. But you made me believe I could. He looked at her gently. You did that on your own. No, she whispered. No one's ever stood in front of me before. No one's ever looked at someone powerful and said, no, she stays. Cole wrapped his arms around her. Well, get used to it. That night they sat by the fire. Seren didn't speak much. She just held her cup and stared into the flames. Then, she said, I didn't want to be brave. I just wanted to survive. And now, I want more. Cole looked at her. What do you want? She turned to him, eyes shining. I want to stay. Not because I'm scared, but because here, I'm me. He reached out and held her hand. You've always been you, he said. You just needed someone to remind you. The next day didn't bring peace, it brought threats. A warning message blinked on Cole's workshop console. You have 48 hours to return stolen property or we take it back, by force. No name, no signature. But Seren knew who sent it. They won't stop, she said. They never stop. Cole looked up from the screen, calm but fierce. Then neither will I. That night, Cole and Seren locked the doors, reinforced the windows, and turned the quiet home into a fortress of scrap and willpower. Seren watched as Cole moved through the garage, fixing traps, loading a pulse blaster, rewiring security drones. He worked with care, not fear. You've done this before, she said. He nodded. Once, during the colony riots, I had to protect a group of refugees. Some were children. You saved them? Most, he said quietly. But not all. I won't fail this time, Seren stepped forward. You won't, because you're not alone anymore. Midnight came with wind and silence. Then the silence broke. Engines. 4 dark figures approached, weapons in hand, walking without hurry, as if they knew they couldn't be stopped. Seren stood at the window, heart steady. This time, she wasn't hiding. This time, she wasn't his. This time, she fought back. The first man tried to breach the gate. Zap! A trap snapped shut around his leg, an electrified clamp made from a junked droid. He screamed and fell. The second fired at the window. Cole ducked, grabbed the pulse blaster, and returned fire. Narrow shots that kept the attackers from getting too close. The third circled to the back, only to trip a motion sensor and trigger an auto turret made from an old farming bot. Seren moved fast. No more trembling, no more corner hiding. She tossed a flash charge out the front door, blinding the fourth figure long enough for Cole to tackle him. The fight was messy, chaotic, but powerful. This wasn't a trained military base. This was a home, and they were defending it, not because it was perfect, but because it was theirs. After the last attacker ran, limping and burned, the yard was littered with smoking wreckage and broken gear. Seren sat on the ground, breathing hard, her hair wild, her hands cut, but steady. Cole crouched beside her. You okay? He asked. She nodded, then whispered something that made his chest tighten. I never fought for myself before. He stared at her. I always waited for someone to rescue me, she said. But tonight, I chose to fight. For you. For this place. For me. Cole touched her shoulder gently. And you were incredible. Seren smiled, small, tired but real. News of the attack spread fast. The next morning, 3 colony patrol ships landed near Cole's home, but not to arrest him. They came, with reinforcements. Neighbors brought supplies. Old mechanics offered to fix the damage. A woman from the market brought food and said, She's one of us now. Seren didn't know how to react. She had spent her whole life being passed from hand to hand. And now, people stood with her. Not for what she could give, but for who she was becoming. That evening, Cole handed Seren a small case. Inside was a necklace, simple, wire, shaped into a circle with a single metal bead in the center. I made it from the broken pieces of your old tracking collar, he said. It doesn't control you anymore, it just reminds you that you own yourself now. She touched it carefully, her voice shaking. It's the first gift I've ever received that wasn't meant to control me. Cole looked at her. You're not broken, Seren, they just never gave you a chance to heal. She stepped forward, eyes bright with something new. Hope. You did. The house was quiet again, not the kind of silence that came from fear, but the kind that came after healing. Seren stood by the open window, the morning light brushing her silver skin. Her scars didn't vanish, but now they didn't own her. The symbols on her back were still there, but they no longer whispered property. Now they whispered survivor. Outside, the garden Cole had been slowly planting had begun to bloom, small wild flowers, strong and stubborn. Like her. She turned as Cole entered the room. He smiled. "You're up early." "I wanted to see the sun today," she said softly. Handed her a warm cup of tea. "You've been stronger than anyone I've ever met." She didn't reply right away. Then she asked, "Do you ever wonder why you brought me here?" Cole leaned against the doorway. "Yeah, at first I thought I just wanted to help someone. But it became more than that." "Why didn't you give up?" she whispered. "Everyone else did." He walked over, took her hand gently. "Because when I looked at you, I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone buried, under pain, under silence, but still shining." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't even believe I was worth saving." "Well," Cole said softly, "I believe enough for both of us." Later that day, Seren sat outside under the sky, writing in a notebook Cole had given her. Her handwriting was shaky, but she was practicing. Her words were her own. She wrote down her real name, not the tag, not the number, just Seren, a name no one gave her, a name she chose. In the evening, they lit a small fire. The colony had fully accepted her now. No one called her a defect. No one stared. A few even came by the house sometimes just to talk, carefully, kindly. One little girl had handed Seren a flower yesterday and said, "You're really pretty." Seren hadn't known what to say, so she smiled. That was enough. As the flames crackled, Cole sat beside her. She looked at him seriously. "Do you still want me here?" she asked. He turned to her, surprised. "Of course. But I still freeze sometimes. I still get scared. I still have nightmares." He reached for her hand. "Seren, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And you are." She took a deep breath. "Then, I want to stay." He squeezed her hand gently. "Then stay." She hesitated, then leaned her head against his shoulder. "I've never had a home," she whispered. "Not until now," Cole smiled, eyes closed. "This isn't just your home," he said. "It's ours." Days turned into weeks, and Seren, once returned 47, became someone else entirely. She began helping other rescued girls in the colony, quiet ones, trembling ones. She sat beside them, never rushing, just offering silence they could breathe, and she told them, "You don't have to smile, you don't have to speak, just stay. You'll remember who you are soon." Because someone had once said those words to her. One night, as the stars burned bright overhead, Seren looked at Cole and said, "You know, when I was locked in those cages, I dreamed of running into the stars." He looked at her. "Do you still want to?" She shook her head, smiling softly. "Not anymore." "Why?" "Because I found something better than freedom." He raised an eyebrow. "I found someone who looked at me," she said, "and didn't see a product, or a project, or a mistake." She leaned closer. "You saw a person, and then you said the words no one ever said." Cole brushed her cheek with his thumb. "Stay with me," he whispered. She smiled. "I already have."